Hello, this is John Zillis, CFO at Moon Lake Electric Association. For those who are on a large power, irrigation, or similar rate schedule, you may have noticed the demand charge on your power bill. In order to help our members understand this charge, we've created this video to explain what demand is, why we charge for it, and how to reduce your demand in order to help you save money. Please note that this currently doesn't apply to those on a residential rate schedule. First off, what is demand? In order to understand demand, it's important to know where we get the quantity of power, measured in kilowatts, that we use for the demand charge calculation. A billing cycle is around 30 days long, and the electricity you use is measured in 15-minute increments within that billing cycle. Demand quantity is simply that one 15-minute increment of time when you use the most electricity. This highest one 15-minute increment of time is called peak demand. Once peak demand is identified, we then multiply that quantity by the demand rate to get the demand charge that you see on your bill. Let's take an example of an irrigator with a couple motors on their service to help illustrate what creates peak demand. Let's assume that those motors are using the most electricity of anything else connected. If the irrigator's typical practice is to start these motors up at the same time, then the peak demand is higher than it would be otherwise. That's because when a motor first starts, it typically uses more power compared to afterwards when it's running at operational levels. If the irrigator staggers the starting of these motors or uses other methods to reduce the power it takes to start them by using variable frequency drives or VFDs, for example, this will bring down the quantity of power used for peak demand and result in decreased demand charges. The concept of electricity and how it's measured can be tough to understand. I find it helpful to compare it to something that is more easily understood. For example, we all understand how water is measured and we use it on a daily basis. Let's say we measure how many gallons of water we use in 30 days. If we wanted to measure demand in the concept of water, we would find the 15-minute increment that we use the most gallons of water. The same applies to finding peak demand in your power usage. Now that we've covered what demand is, why do we charge for it? One of our primary responsibilities at Moon Lake Electric is to provide you, our members, with reliable electricity, meaning that when you flip the switch for your power, the power is there. In order to accommodate for times and seasons with high energy demand, we need to have the infrastructure and power supply ready at all times. Demand charges help to fairly distribute the cost of providing that consistent service to those members who use large amounts of electricity at once. Those members who have higher peak demand also use the system to a greater degree. The higher the peak, the heavier duty and more expensive the infrastructure must be to accommodate. In our water example, you can only put so much water through certain diameters of pipe. If you try and force too much water through too small of a pipe, then you run the risk of pipe fracture or other material failure. This concept also holds true with electricity. The infrastructure needs to be properly sized to accommodate the maximum demand that it may endure. Now that we've discussed what demand is and why we charge for it, let's look at some of the options you have to reduce your demand. Some of these methods include installing energy efficient equipment and finding other smart ways to reduce your energy usage. Using the right energy graded equipment for the job and downsizing if necessary. Staggering your company's most energy intensive activities. Another option for helping to reduce your demand is by using VFDs. VFDs are advanced control devices that regulate the speed and power consumption of electric motors. By utilizing a VFD on your equipment, you can adjust motor speed based on actual needs, making your motors more efficient, optimize energy consumption by matching motor speed to the required load, enables smooth motor startups and shutdowns, and when economically feasible, reduce motor operation during peak demand. Many retailers have a wide variety of VFDs to choose from. It's recommended that you work with your electrician to determine if a VFD is right for you and which type is best for your circumstances. By reducing demand, you will save money and assist in lowering our overall peak demand at Moon Lake Electric. In turn, this will lead to decreased infrastructure wear and tear, enhanced grid stability, and better planning for the future of our grid. As always, if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to contact us here at Moon Lake Electric Association, your locally owned electric cooperative.